Have you ever been tempted to answer, to justify yourself, to shout your truth in an argument? When injustice suffocates you, when slander strikes you, when people judge you without knowing, your heart burns and your tongue is ready to respond. But imagine if, at that precise moment, Allah said to you, "Shut up, let me do it." Silence is not running away. It's not losing. It is sometimes the greatest form of faith. To remain silent when we could speak, to hold back when we have every reason to respond, is to say to Allah without words, "I trust you." It's in these moments, when you choose calm instead of chaos, that the invisible doors open. Because Allah defends His servants, because He sees what no one sees, and because when you close your mouth for Him, it opens up avenues for you that you yourself would never have imagined. So, what if you decided for once not to answer? What if you left the fight to Him? Look at. You will see what He will do, immediately, the power of silence in Islam. In a world where everyone talks, shouting louder than everyone else has become a way of existing. But Islam teaches us a completely different approach. Speak wisely or keep quiet. Silence, in the Islamic tradition, is a sign of wisdom, piety, and self-control. It is not an empty silence, but a silence filled with faith. The Prophet said in an authentic hadith reported by Al-Bukhari and Muslim, "Whoever believes in Allah and the last day, let him speak good or remain silent." This is not a simple recommendation. It's a criterion of faith. If you truly believe in Allah, you watch your tongue. You choose your words. And if you can't say something good, something just, something beneficial, you stay silent. The silence of the Prophet in the face of offenses is a lesson of grandeur. When the Quraysh insulted him, called him a liar, a sorcerer, a madman, he did not respond with anger. He did not return insult for insult. He kept his calm. Because silence sometimes hurts more than words. It exposes the stupidity of others. It shows who is truly worthy, and it allows Allah to elevate His servant. The Prophet also said, "It is not proper for the believer to let himself be carried away by anger, nor to allow himself to be dominated by his tongue." Our language can be a source of light, or a fire that burns everything. A word can console a heart, bring souls together, but a word can also break a relationship, sully an honor, destroy a life. This is why silence is a protection. The great scholars of Islam have often spoken of the wisdom of silence. Ibn al-Qayyim said, "There is a time to speak and a time to be silent, and he who knows the right time for everything has attained wisdom." Al-Hasan al-Basri, one of the greatest imams of Tabi'een, said, "Silence is a worship that few people practice." For what? Because remaining silent requires inner strength. It's easy to react. It is difficult to master, but he who remains silent for Allah is assisted by Allah. In the Quran, Allah says, "There is not a word he utters without an observer ready to record it, noting it." Surah Qaf, verse 18. Each word is noted. Every word counts. So the thoughtful believer weighs what he says. And often he chooses silence, because he knows that silence will never be used against him on Judgment Day. In Islam, remaining silent is never a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it is a form of internal jihad, against the ego that wants to defend itself, against the anger that wants to explode, against the desire to react, to crush, to dominate. Silence is an inner light, a shield against sin, a proof of maturity, and sometimes it's proof that you really trust Allah, that you don't need to fight with words because you know that your Lord fights for you. Being silent when you have every reason to speak, it's not natural, it's not easy. And yet Allah, in His wisdom, sometimes pushes us into silence. Not to humiliate us, not so that we accept injustice, but for us to understand a greater truth. Silence, when it is for Allah, becomes a proof of total trust. To speak is to want to regain control, wanting to defend yourself, wanting to convince. But to remain silent is to say to Allah, Ya Rabbi, you know, you see, and I leave room for you. This silence is not empty. He is full of tawakkul, this immense, almost illogical confidence in the power of Allah. It is a silent act of worship, but full of meaning. The believer keeps silent, not because he has nothing to say, but because he knows that what Allah can do is greater than any words. In the Quran, Allah says, "And whoever puts his trust in Allah, He is sufficient for him." Surah At-Talaq, verse 3. Yes, it is enough. Even when you are wrongly accused, even when you are misunderstood, even when you are betrayed. If you keep silent for Allah, it is He who speaks in your name. And when it is Allah who speaks for you, hearts are turned, truths come out, and justice descends in ways no one would have predicted. Silence also protects you from the sins of the tongue. Every word can be poison. One criticism, one insult, one response full of anger, and you slip into an ocean of sins without realizing it. The Prophet said, "People will be dragged on their faces to hell because of what their tongues have harvested." Do you see why Allah sometimes asks us to be silent? It's not a punishment, it's a protection. And sometimes Allah tests you with situations where you could defend yourself, shout, accuse, react. But He expects you the patience of silence. For what? Because He wants to elevate you, because He wants to purify you, because He wants you to go through this moment to bring down His wisdom, His justice, His answer. Silence is also a way of not reacting under the influence of emotion, because in anger we exceed our limits. In pain we say things we regret, but in the silence we give Allah time to heal, to repair, to re-establish the truth. There are victories that can only be achieved by remaining silent. There are blessings that can only be obtained by stepping aside to let Allah shine. There are injustices that can only be corrected by letting Him who is most just, Al-Adl, take care of it. So sometimes Allah asks you to be silent, not to silence you forever, but to elevate you, to teach you that he who trusts Him has nothing to prove. Sure enough, here's the next section, expanded to about 3,000 characters. Examples of the prophets and the pious who were silent. There are silences that scream louder than the screams, silences worth battles. And in the Quran, Allah shows us that the greatest among humans experienced these moments, where they could have spoken, defended themselves, responded, but they chose silence, and Allah spoke for them. Musa, Moses, facing the Pharaoh. Imagine this scene. Two lone men, Musa and his brother Harun, walking towards the most powerful tyrant of their time, Pharaoh, a man who hates them, who denies Allah, who kills, who humiliates. And Allah says to them, even before they speak, "Fear nothing, I am with you, I hear and I see." Surah Taha, verse 46. Musa had to keep calm, speak wisely, despite the fear, the tension, the threat. And at one point, Allah don't even wait for him to react. It is He who speaks. We said, "Do not be afraid. It is you who will prevail." Surah Al-Qasas, verse 60. This silence, this restraint of Musa, was his faith in action. He knew he didn't need to defend himself alone. Allah was with him. The Prophet Muhammad in Taif, one of the most painful moments in the life of the Prophet. In Taif, he is rejected, insulted, humiliated. Children are sent to throw stones at him. His body is bleeding. His heart is bleeding even more. And yet, he don't curse. He doesn't shout. He doesn't fight back. He is silent. And in this silence, in this pain, he raises an invocation filled with love and submission to Allah, saying, "If you are not angry with me, then I am not complaining about anything." He could have answered. He could have called for punishment. But he chose to let Allah answer for him. And shortly after, hearts open, the light of Islam spreads, and those who hurt him become his allies. Maryam, Mary, the fast of silence. And then there is Maryam, this pious, pure woman, chosen among all the women in the world. When she returns to her people, carrying Isa, Jesus, in her arms, she knows she is going to be judged, criticized, humiliated. But Allah said to him, "If you see anyone from among mankind, say, 'Surely I have fasted to the most merciful, therefore I will not speak today to any human being.'" Surat Maryam, verse 126. Silence as the answer, silence as an act of faith. And Allah does not leave her alone. It is her son, a baby still in the cradle, who speaks for her. He proclaims the truth by the miracle of Allah. Silence as an invocation. All these examples show that this silence is not an absence of action. It is a silent invocation. It is saying to Allah, "I am withdrawing. Act you." And Allah answers. He intervenes, defends, elevates, restores. Because when his servants are silent for him, it is he who speaks for them. Musa's silence was followed by Pharaoh's drowning. The silence of the Prophet in Taif was followed by the conquest of hearts. Maryam's silence was followed by the miraculous speech of a newborn baby. Silence, when it is for Allah, is never empty. It is loaded with confidence. And Allah hears even what your tongue does not speak, when speaking can destroy the tongue. So small, but so powerful. She can mend one heart, just as she can break 10. It can bring souls together, just as it can sow discord. And this is why Islam puts so many safeguards around speech. Because sometimes it's not what you do that destroys you, that's what you say. The Prophet said, "When the son of Adam wakes up in the morning, all his limbs address the tongue and say to it, 'Fear Allah for us. For if you are upright, we will be upright. And if you are deviated, we will be deviated.'" Tirmidhi. It all starts with the language. She is the conductor of good or evil. La ghibah, backbiting. The Prophet defined ghibah as follows: "You say about your brother what he would hate. And even if it's true, this is what makes this mistake so serious. In the Quran, Allah compares this to a shocking image. Would you like to eat the flesh of your dead brother? That would disgust you." Surat Al-Hujurat, Vila 12. A simple word, a so-called passing criticism, a comment on a person's appearance, attitude, or choices, and you have just eaten their flesh. You just take on an immense burden, sometimes for years, and the person doesn't even know it. The namima, word report. It is this poison that destroys relationships, families, friendships. You say something to one person, you report it to another, and the fire starts to burn. The Prophet clearly said, "The peddler of words will not enter paradise." Muslim. Namima creates hatred, suspicion, conflict. It destroys the peace in a community. And all this because of a language not mastered, the useless arguments, the reactions of the wounded heart. Sometimes you didn't want to do bad. You were just hurt, angry. You responded promptly. You said what you thought. But in this response, you have caused damage that you can no longer repair. You spoke without filter, and you destroyed a relationship, broke a trust, or extinguished a heart. The Prophet said, "He who abandons dispute, even when he is right, Allah will build him a house in the center of paradise." Abu Dawood. For what? Because silence in the face of argument is an act of faith. This means, my dignity is not in the last word, it is in the peace that I preserve. One word can change everything. It only takes one sentence, just one, and you can lose a friendship, ruining a marriage, to drive someone away from religion, destroy your brother or sister's reputation in Islam. One word, and the blessings fly away. This is why Allah loves those who hold back, who measure their words, who know that every letter spoken can be a bridge to heaven or a door to hell. What happens immediately according to Allah? You shut up. You gritted your teeth. You held your tongue as she longed to respond. You contented yourself for Allah. And at this precise moment, you have moved something in the invisible. Maybe you think nothing happened. But Allah, He, acts immediately. You do not see the plans He activates, the hearts He touches, the truths He prepares to reveal. But His promise is clear. Whoever puts his trust in Allah, He is sufficient for him. Surah At-Talaq, verse 3. It's enough. No need to prove, to shout, to force. When you step aside for Him, He manifests Himself for you. Silence for Allah is a declaration of war on Shaitan, a living proof of faith. And Allah never abandons those who remain silent for Him. He defends them. He honors them. He raises them. Allah defends those who have faith. Surah Al-Haqq, verse 38. He defends. This means that the moment you choose silence out of piety, you are no longer alone. Your Creator takes charge of your business. How many times have you seen the truth come out without you having to speak? How many times has someone who accused you ended up falling alone? How many times has a heart turned in your favor without you having to justify yourself? It's not luck. This is Allah's response to your silence. He doesn't wait. He starts to act as soon as you show confidence. Even if you don't feel it right away, change is already underway. When you choose silence by faith, you trigger divine justice. And it is always more beautiful, more complete, and more accurate than what you could have done with words. So the next time your ego shouts, "Answer," tell him gently, "No, Allah will take care of it." And observe, you will see. Close your mouth, open your heart. Stop trying to explain everything. Stop justifying yourself to those who don't even try to understand. Allah sees, Allah hears, Allah knows. Shut your mouth, but open your heart to Him. Let Him speak for you. Let Him defend your honor. Because what your silence prepares, your word could have ruined it. Test. Just once. The next time you are hurt, accused, provoked, shut up. Not out of weakness, but out of strength, by faith. And look, observed. You will see how your Lord acts. Peace will come. The solutions will fall. And the victory, the one that comes from Allah, will be much sweeter than any answer you could have given.